This video today is to show you why a lease option seller makes more money with less work than by being a landlord. Alright, these two reasons alone should be why you should want to be a lease option seller instead of a landlord. We're going to go over maintenance and upkeep. So in a landlord, you're responsible for all the maintenance, upkeep, and expenses. So the toilet stops up, furnace goes out, roof starts leaking, you have to pay for and fix all that. Whereas in a lease option seller situation, the lease option buyer is actually responsible for all that. I mean, over here as a landlord, the tenant could call you at midnight on Saturday and say, hey, come plunge my toilet. No one likes to do that. So lease option seller gets the win on that. In a landlord situation, typically you're going to get a 1-year lease, which means you're going to put more and more people in your house, which means more and more wear and tear. You have to go through the process of putting out ads, filtering prospects, background checks, credit checks, doing all this work, showing houses. But over here, you're going to get a 2- or 3-year lease with the lease option buyer, so it's a lot less work for you. One of the best things about being a lease option seller is the tremendous financial upside. Most people don't understand that. And actually, one of the most common reasons I get from landlords about why they don't want to be a lease option seller is because they want to hold on to their property long term and they think that's the best investment. I understand why they think that, but it's actually false. And in a second, I'm going to show you why you have much more cash flow and equity long term as a lease option seller. Okay, so I've already shown you how a lease option seller is less work than being a landlord because you get the longer leases and you get the person in the house that's actually going to take care of it and pay for anything that comes up. So in this example, we're going to use the same property worth $250,000, has about $50,000 in equity, and collects $1,500 a month. And over the course of 2 years, the seller and the landlord are both going to get $36,000 in monthlies. So the landlord, after 2 years, is still going to have that one house. Everything's going to be about the same. It's going to be worth about the same, going to have about the same amount of equity, and still collect about the same amount of money every month. But after 2 years, the seller is actually going to sell it to the lease option buyer for $250,000 in addition to the $36,000 they already collected. And since there's no real estate commissions and the buyer actually pays the closing costs, the seller actually gets $250,000. And that seller is actually going to do something called a 1031 exchange, which is really common in real estate investing. Any real estate attorney can help you with it. It's pretty easy. It allows the seller to sell the property tax-free as long as they reinvest their money back into real estate. So the seller is actually going to get $50,000. And what we're going to do with that is split it into 2 piles of $25,000. We're going to do the same exact thing with both of them, so we'll just go through one. What we're going to do is the seller's going to go on Craigslist. They're going to find a dozen or so houses that are worth about $250,000 that they like. They're going to email those sellers and say, I have $25,000. Would you consider an owner finance contract? And there's actually ads on Craigslist already that say they would consider an owner finance contract, so they're pretty easy to find. And even doing a deal like that, you don't have to pay full price. So let's say the property's worth $250,000. They decide to buy it for $225,000, and then they put the $25,000 down. So they owe $200,000 on a $250,000 house, creating $50,000 in equity. And then they're going to sell it on a lease option, and they're going to collect $1,500 a month, and then we're going to do the same exact thing over there. So in just 2 years, the assets are going to double to $500,000, the equity is going to double to $100,000, and the monthly is going to double to $3,000. An amazing opportunity for growth. Now 10 years later, these numbers have probably changed, but just to stay consistent, we're going to keep using the same numbers. The landlord still just has the one property after 10 years with an asset value of $250,000, equity of $50,000, and a monthly income of $1,500. Where the lease option seller, by doing 2-year lease options after 10 years, has turned that one house into 32 houses with a total asset value of $8 million, an equity value of $1.6 million, and a monthly income of $48,000. Again, emphasizing growth potential of being a lease option seller versus a landlord. So if at 10 years, being a multimillionaire wasn't enough for some of you, at 20 years, it becomes pretty hard to believe for some people. Because by doing 2-year lease options, you could have up to 1,024 houses. And by staying consistent at $250,000 per house being the value, $50,000 equity for each house, and $1,500 per month coming in as monthly income, we'd have an asset value of $256 million, equity value of $51.2 million, a monthly income of $1.54 million. And the landlord over here still has the one house. It doesn't really matter what it's worth anymore. This house could be worth $1 million and have $1 million in equity, collecting, you know, $10,000 a month. That's nice for one house, but compared to this, it just doesn't matter. So what do you think? You want to be a landlord? Or are you ready to be a lease option seller?